Hey guys, it's Neon. I'm here with Geeky Sparkles.
Hello.
And she's angry.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk about how one random Star Wars fan's opinion somehow became what is being misrepresented as a study.
Well, no, because he claims it's a study for a research.
Well,
paper.
it's his personal
right
study.
But as somebody who works in education, and I have family who works in the medical field, one study does not quantify an outcome that is considered as a fact. You need multiple studies, multiple supporting studies, and research to quantify something as labeled as a fact. And they're labeling this as a fact. And throughout the article himself, he even says, well, I will find the exact quote, but something along the lines of, well, everybody, it's well known among everybody that you cannot concretely say this. But here's what I'm concretely saying.
Yeah, so before we go into this, I'm sure you've probably seen this elsewhere. It's all over the place now. And people who are defending The Last Jedi are pouncing on it. We have,
of course they were.
Publications like
he's
The
got
Verge.
a PhD.
So the premise here, for those of you who aren't familiar, is that, well, some people probably haven't. It's only been last 12 hours or so. The premise is that most of the hate thrown Rian Johnson's way thrown at The Last Jedi is because of Russian meddling,
Russian bots, sock puppet trolls,
sock puppet accounts.
We also learn that if you are very political, if you are a person who's very politically charged in your tweets, and especially if you're political and you're a Republican, you are not allowed to be a fan of anything because clearly you are biased. And I mean, he doesn't say anything about the extreme leftists. They're allowed to say whatever, including himself, because he, as we'll show you, he's extremely left. He's allowed to say...
Yeah, there's clear bias
his opinion's okay. He's allowed to be very politically driven, but his opinions matter, and they aren't for trolling. But if you are extremely politically right, your opinions are not, and for any other reason, you're not allowed to be fanned, you're just trolling. We are actually moderate left, and I'm offended by this report because it is bullshit on so many levels.
Yeah, it basically is. I mean, I just can't believe
it's not even a real paper.
Oh,
it's
God.
it's so clearly biased, and there's no quantifiable things. He spouts off what programs he uses, but he doesn't give you, here I studied from this date to this date, here are the exact tweets I studied, because then what can happen is someone can go and do the same thing in reverse and disprove what he's saying.
Well, I mean, it would be nice to have, more than one person involved in the research, but before we go into the article, before we go into his paper, let's talk about Morton Bay, PhD, who is the person who wrote this study, who did the study, which is being quoted all over the place by a bunch of sites that are trying to defend.
One person did a paper, a thesis paper, and that's the solid proof.
That's the study.
That's
the study.
One person did a study. One person.
There's
nothing collaborating it. There's no sources of people who collaborate the study as with their own studies. One person did a study. Okay.
So Morton Bay, PhD, is doing some stuff with UCLA. If you go out to his LinkedIn, currently Center for Digital Future at USC Annenberg. He's a research fellow. He's done a lot of. He was a PhD candidate, teaching fellow. He is not actually teaching now. I don't believe he's teaching. Writer, very politically.
In Southern California universities.
In Southern California.
Not that I'm offending anybody in Southern California, but I'm just saying they tend to lean very left.
So let's just take a look. Now, immediately I can see, okay, here he's got the Death Star on his shirt. Now, I will give him points. Clearly, he is a Pink Floyd fan. So I will give you props for that, Morton Bay, PhD. But if you go through Morton Bay, PhD's Twitter timeline, you will see that pretty much every tweet that he tweets is related to Star Wars or politics or both.
Which he says in his study labels you as a political biased or a troll, which means that you are automatically considered negative. But it's okay on his side because he leans left. And we lean left. Right. So I guess our stance on this counts because we are left leaning. So our opinion on this joke of a study is going to count more because we are not doing it as a political leaning.
No, there's no political agenda here. We're basically just trying to be like, look, I mean, I'm having such a hard time wrapping my mind around why people who didn't like The Last Jedi have to defend it more than people who liked it. It's just a movie, isn't it? But it's become more. It's become sort of a political statement. Like, disliking The Last Jedi, for whatever reason you dislike The Last Jedi, basically throws you in with alt-right trolls.
Yes,
and
the
it's so bizarre.
There are some people who like it that are Republican.
Yeah,
I'm just saying.
I'm saying this is not exclusively
one with this bull crap. So the paper starts out as a direct, very specific, left-leaning idea. It's not even neutral in its point. The whole point is here's my thesis. My theory is this. I'm going to prove this. Go ahead. What were you saying?
He's gonna put himself out of work. Tired of men, me included. Hey, white guys, we had a good run of it, but we seem to hit peak white maleness, and it looks like we really blanked it all up. What you say we hang back and let some other folks run it? Sounds good to me. As Morton Bay, PhD, is trying to get himself
and you know what?
A job.
I'm not a straight white guy, and I hate The Last Jedi. So let's talk about that, because apparently it's Russian bots, trolls, and straight white men. Explain me. Explain many of the people who are women who don't like it. Explain people of minorities who do not like it.
Yeah, this is so ridiculous. I can't believe this got past peer review. I mean, this is just such a. I mean, clearly, clearly he has
Southern
an agenda.
California University.
I
That's
know,
how it got
but
past peer review.
It's actually a reputable
college in general. That's how you get past peer review.
I mean, it's just so ridiculous that he's basically like he's a rabid liberal and a rabid Star Wars fan, and he doesn't like the people who didn't like The Last Jedi for various reasons. Therefore, they must be fake. They must be fake reviews.
So we're going to look at the paper.
Fake outrage.
The paper in itself starts off immediately with calling people who would disagree alt-right. Calling people who just, there's a trend with these alt-right people. And basically the paper, we'll look at it here. Here you start here.
Should I read the abstract?
Well, just read parts of it, because it's going to take forever.
Morton Bay, PhD. Political discord on social media is seen by many as polarized, vitriolic, and permeated by falsehoods and misinformation.
On both sides.
Yeah, on both sides. Political operators have exploited all of these aspects of the discourse for strategic purposes, most famously during the Russian social media influence campaign during the 2016 presidential election in the United States, and current similar efforts targeting U.S. elections in 2018 and 2020 on both sides. Can I put that in an asterisk? Because that's actually what they found. There was
on both sides,
on
right?
Both sides,
including the left,
right?
We lean left.
Yes,
so.
Yes. So the results of the social media study presented in this paper presents. I'm sorry, I can't read. Very, very tiny writing. That political influence through the manipulation of social media discussions is no longer exclusive to
political debate,
but it can now be found in pop culture. Specifically, the study examines a collection of tweets relating to a much publicized fan dispute over the last Star Wars last Star Wars franchise film, Episode 8, The Last Jedi. The study finds evidence of deliberate, organized political influence measures disguised as fan arguments. Bullshit. The likely objective of these measures is increasing media coverage of the fandom conflict, thereby adding to and further propagating a narrative of widespread discord and dysfunction in American society.
Time out, though. If the objective of these measures is to increase media coverage of the fandom conflict, how come then you're doing a poor job of it? Because all the media coverage is all talking about how the left and that side is all on the right, and the right are just a bunch of trolls trying to cause trouble. That's the media coverage what has been given. So if the right, the so-called, I'm using quotes on the left and right here because it's what he's claiming. If the so-called troll sock puppet accounts, the negative haters, which are mostly by his description right, alt-right, were trying to get positive media coverage to gain attention for themselves, then they failed, because most of the media coverage has been by the friendly media to the Rian Johnson and such, talking about how these people are all incels who live in the basement and they're all just white men.
Yeah, so it is kind of weird because they were trying to...
By his own thing, he discredited it.
Yeah, if they were trying to create this widespread belief that The Last Jedi was a garbage movie, then they did fail, because most of the mainstream media outlets completely loved it or pretended to love it. for a variety of reasons. You want to talk about meddling, we can talk about PR and media influencers.
Well, I can tell you straight up,
but
for as much as they're claiming sock puppet accounts and things saying negative things, I can assure you with 100% certainty that these studios go out and they pay people to go and do positive reviews, to go and make sure that you give positive comments. If you see something negative, you have to double down with your positivity. There are people that are paid solely to do this. I'm just saying.
Yeah, and that's not saying all the positive reviews are paid. We're not going to make that. That us making the claim that all of the positive Last Jedi reviews were bought and paid for by the studio is as erroneous as Morton Bay claiming that all of the negative reviews were influenced by Russian bots.
He eventually says not all of them were, but most of them.
Yeah, but it sounds so scandalous. He wants people. But
my comment here, the only reason I stopped you was he's basically saying that that the people are using the increased media coverage of the fandom conflict to further their alt-right agenda, but the media coverage is actually working against them. So that kind of refutes everything he just said.
Yeah.
So that just refutes that. Why, to what end? Because if it's working against you, why would you continue to do it? It doesn't make sense.
Right. And we're gonna talk about basically what he analyzes are tweets directly mentioning Rian Johnson on Twitter.
But he doesn't actually. I don't think I have to look at it again. But I don't think he specifies which tweets they are.
No. He's basically, and he also doesn't apply the same litmus test to tweets in the opposing.
No, he claims he did, but he breaks down all the claims that he considers negative hate claims and breaks them down and through all these processes to get to his numbers. And then as an afterthought, he said, "Oh, we did the same thing to the positive ones, but they were all fine." And I'm like, I doubt that highly. Right. But you can't confirm this because you are not given the specific tweets to which he studied. Other than it's in June of 2018 sometime. You are not given the specifics of it enough to go and double check and look at the supposed research to see if it matches up with another independent study.
Right.
And as somebody who writes papers, who actually works in education and things that we have required to do this kind of thing, this is not how you write papers.
This is just really interesting because, it's really, I mean, this is a guy who, if you just a very casual search for him on Twitter, you immediately know his politics and his passions. Star Wars. He's a huge Star Wars fan. I mean,
as am I.
And I'm not stalking him. I just was curious how
moderate leaning left. Moderate leaning left. And I'm like, and so why does my opinion mean less than his? Because he's a PhD.
Right.
But when you're doing a study on something, be it medication, be it education, be it this, you're going to want, and you're clearly going to have one side. You're out to prove something. That's normal. But what isn't normal is when you're going to prove something, like say for example, use medications. You have 2 medications that are being used to treat something. It is your job as a researcher, if you're claiming your medication is highly effective and the other medication is not, you first have to prove that the other medication is not effective before your proof of being effective is counted. Because you can say whatever. My mom used to say, I can say went to the moon doesn't make it true. You can say, so I can put out a paper saying my medication's effective for this, 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 and this, and the other one's not. But unless you're proving the other one is not, that is a pointless paper because you've done nothing but say your medication does what you said, but you're not saying it's the best. You're not proving it's the best.
Right.
That's what this does. I'm taking my stance. I'm saying this, and this about the side about the negative comments. Oh, and it's an afterthought. Yeah, I ran on the positive too, and they're fine. Just trust me on that. With no actual data where you can go look and see where this data was to verify it for yourself. Sorry.
Yeah, and that's just it. This is just
he might have at the bottom. I didn't even look. But
this is a very very skewed paper.
If he did give the exact tweets, somebody else who has access to these metrics, please by all means go run the same thing and see if it matches up.
Yeah, but I just think it's so weird that this is just his paper and they're like study finds. To me, when I read the headline, again, former newspaper editor, Star Wars Last Jedi, negative buzz amplified by Russian trolls, study finds. One, you're declaring that this is the truth, okay, because you're assuming that the study is completely accurate and that this is without... and even in his own study, there's 2 or 3 places where he indicates that, well, if all things are equal and possibly this is true. We'll get to that. But he even kind of refutes his own stuff in the paper. Go ahead. And clearly the source is biased. And again, this is by one guy. I mean, PhD or not, it's one guy who is a Star Wars fan and is a politically motivated individual, and he's also looking for a job. So
well, also,
he's trying to get
he's
this.
looking at one thing: Twitter.
Yes.
And let's be honest here. Twitter, besides being a dumpster fire as of late, is very left-leaning.
Yeah.
It's very clearly biased to one side on Twitter. Also, he's not looking at like Facebook. He's not looking at other social media. Not to mention the fact that a lot of people who I know saw Last Jedi and didn't like it don't even use these social media accounts.
Right. And part of it, again, going, and we'll go through a little bit through the paper here. Geeky already went through the paper, but there are some things that are like some huge red flags, because he's talking about like the newness of the accounts, the fact the accounts don't really talk or interact much. That doesn't necessarily mean they're bots. From what I have seen on Twitter in my own personal little sphere in comics and nerddom over the last few months, because of the polarized opinions, you have a lot of people coming in from YouTube, from Facebook, from other social media, just joining Twitter to voice an opinion toward creators or whatever, but they're not active. It doesn't mean that they're bots. It just means that they haven't been on Twitter forever. They just want to jump in there and tell Rian Johnson what they think about his movie.
If you're using in the past, people didn't have this much negativity towards movies. That's not necessarily true. What happened in the past was you didn't have the easy access to speak to a creator like you do today. You couldn't just go on Twitter and talk about it. You had to write a fan letter, maybe possibly they'd read it. Now you can just go right to social media and interact with them directly. You couldn't do that before. So you really can't compare this. It's apples to oranges. You cannot compare today to George Lucas 20 years ago, 30 years ago, whatever, because it's not the same thing.
Yeah, and they might have gotten, hate mail or whatever, but it was such a small amount. I mean, it takes a lot of effort to write a letter or mail it, whatever. And most of the time those letters never made it to the directors, or it just didn't. And now it's like the director is like right there and you can tweet at them.
So what we know about the study is that it happened sometime in June of this year. It was a study directed at tweets geared at Rian Johnson directly, only on Twitter. So from this narrow time period to an even narrower one person's tweets directed at one person on one platform. So you already narrowed it down to fun, and you went cherry picked the one that you think clearly proves your theory is what he did. Basically, he went and cherry picked the one that he thought proved his theory the best, and went from there. Which they tell you don't have to do that. But anyway, what do we know? He has the PhD.
But even this is like, I mean, I'm looking at, you look at the numbers.
Oh, it's clearly leaning to a certain way.
Yeah, 8 months after opening the theaters is the introduction of Morton's paper. Star Wars fans were still talking about the 8th installment in the series of Last Jedi. During this time, media outlets ranging from lightweight pop culture websites to serious news organizations have covered the toxic part of Star Wars fandom, i.e. fans who hate The Last Jedi, and have gone so far as trying to crowdfund a remake of the film, start change.org petitions to strike the film from the Star Wars canon, and create videos, websites, and social media content that criticize the film and call for the firing of its creators.
No, wait. But if it's all bots and sock puppet accounts, who was doing all this?
Well, bots must have a lot of money because they can crowdfund.
Well, not just that, but they apparently can go on camera and everything else, too. I gotta tell you, sometimes I'm comfortable to have people's hands at my rear end as a sock puppet. Because I'm a female who doesn't like it, so clearly I am a figment of your imagination.
That's right. Geeky is just she's a Vocaloid. We just use. She doesn't actually. He
pre-programs. He's actually typing what I say.
I've got this button here I push that makes her say, "This is angry Geeky button, sarcastic Geeky, laughing Geeky,
I don't
maniacal
exist.
Laughing Geeky."
So anyway, so these are all based on Russian bots and sock puppet accounts. Who was out there doing these things?
Non-persons, because they disagree.
No, the people that were politically extreme right-leaning politically, because they don't count either. But go ahead, because you can't be a fan of Star Wars and lean one way politically. Go ahead.
Supporters of The Last Jedi have called these detractors out as being predominantly white males with misogynistic views.
Guess what? I'm a woman, and I'm the one who hated Rey, not Neon. Go ahead.
That did not care for the film's attempts at proving representation of women and ethnic sexual minorities.
That wasn't improving.
Where were the sexual minorities?
I know a lot of people who hate Last Jedi but like Rey. I cannot stand Rey. I think Rey is very Mary Sue. I don't think the character is very likable. I just don't like Rey. I really cannot stand her. And it has nothing. And I didn't like her from The Force Awakens either. So it's not about misogyny, because I just, as a woman, find her unlikable and grating. But go ahead.
Yeah, and you've been saying that since day one. Since we walked out of the theater, Having seen The Force Awakens in 2015, we walked out, the first thing out of Geeky's mouth was,
What?
well, that sucked.
No, the first thing out of my mouth was, what the hell was that?
Oh, what the hell was that? Well, that sucked. I think it was The Last Jedi.
What the hell was that?
We've actually thought maybe it would get better. Oh, God. So, however, the study also presented here shows that more than one heated discussion among social media users, this is more than one heating, it's also evidence of fan conflict caused by The Last Jedi stems from deliberate and organized social media influence tactics employed by politically motivated operators, foreign and domestic. This study explores how these political influence tactics on social media have jumped from political debate spaces to pop culture discussions, but with the same goals of disruption or persuasion. So basically, look, this is my armchair, and I do not have a PhD, okay? I don't have a PhD. But my armchair observation...
Doesn't take much, apparently.
Just sort of analyzing Morton Bay's Twitter, is that Morton Bay doesn't like that Trump won the election, and Morton Bay doesn't like that people didn't like The Last Jedi because he's a huge, massive Star Wars fan.
And he liked it.
And he'll lap up anything Star Wars. And he liked it. He's totally entitled to that opinion, but so are other people. So he basically uses his what platform he has, which is academics, to write this paper, to try to... I mean, this is really like, I've never seen defenders or detractors reach as much as this paper is reaching. Then to make sure that all the news outlets, all of the pop culture news outlets get this. And then for them to claim it as a study when it's literally just one nerd,
well, you know what?
whose opinion matters no more than any of the rest of us.
But here's the problem with, and his background is journalism, and journalism is taught to get hits,
tell a story,
and tell it from your point of the point of view that you find is good, your own, or what's going to cause the most drama. We know this because we worked in journalism. But I will tell you this. There was a guy who put out papers on how vaccines cause autism, and look what happened with that. And it was one person studied initially, and look what happened with the whole vaccine causes autism debate. And I have relatives with autism, and I have relatives that are doctors, and I am telling you that that's not true. Anyway.
So this is just, this is so just... I think he knew. I wrote the guy's fishing for a job. I think he knew this would get attention.
He leaked it to the media.
He leaked it to the media. I think he did it because I've never heard. Oh, there goes a truck.
Hello.
That truck's not real. It's Russian.
It's a Russian truck interfering with our podcast.
Interfering with the podcast.
Anyway.
I cannot believe. We're gonna spare. They're talking about how they're going back to.
Well, Star Wars has always been political, and
right.
I don't disagree with that. Star Wars has always had political bents to it. Secret messages hidden with, well, not so secret, but you know what I mean. It always has been political. I don't think anybody's going to argue with that too much. But it leaned mostly on storytelling and a fun story that you could take the politics out of it completely, and it's still a good story. It used to. We know
that George Lucas personally. Was not. Now, the prequel, they talked about the prequel era and how it was informed by the Bush administration, which is true.
It's true.
It is true. The scene in the Senate, all of that, I believe George Lucas has gone on record as saying was influenced by...
clearly influenced. But
Bush.
Not so heavy-handedly. You can walk away from it and
not realize
and not
it was,
think that it was. You can walk away from it and it's still a good story and not think that. Used to be. Now it's just like, did we mention women? Women are the best. Women, God, hit that into your head. Women are better than men. Women are better than men. Women are better than men.
Yeah,
women.
You
racist pig.
I hit the angry geeky button by accident, guys. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry for that. No, actually, what gets me about this though is my personal issues with The Last Jedi aren't even about their attempts at diversity or whatever. Like, I could give a shit. Just give me well-written characters. Actually, Finn was my favorite character in The Force Awakens. I thought he had the best character arc. I think he had the most potential. We've never seen a stormtrooper defect, and then they shit him. They flushed him down the toilet.
I was going to mention this. Okay, I was going to mention this. From The Last Jedi, we had all these things built up. We had all these questions we had to, for Force Awakens. All these questions about things we had to ask. They had Finn. He gets injured himself because he's trying to bring a lightsaber up and trying to help Rey. He does the right thing. He doesn't run away. He's standing up for what he believes in because he was a coward before. Now he's not. So you have that. You have Poe built up as this hero who's awesome. Everybody loves Poe because he does the right thing and he's a great guy. And we went from having Poe and Finn being these stand-up characters to going to The Last Jedi. And right off, Poe is a hothead who doesn't listen to the orders of women and goes and gets a bunch of people killed because he's just a man who's stupid.
He's a stupid man.
He's trying to stage a coup to take over because he thinks as a man that he should be in charge. Instead of this woman who never showed up anywhere and suddenly appears out of nowhere and everybody's like, who's this woman? But because she's a woman. We're supposed to know that she knows what she's doing, and she's got the right hair, and she's got the right gender, so she should clearly be in charge.
She's got the right
hair. I'm a
woman
woman saying this. And then you have Finn, who has built this whole thing up where he has got to the place where he's going to stand up for the rebellion. He's going to be a hero. And what's the first thing he does?
Tries to run away.
He tries to run away. But that's okay.
That was my biggest, oh my
because
God,
Rose
I'm so mad.
Tico talked him out of it. And then...
by almost killing everybody.
Yes, talks him out of it. And then my son keeps bringing up a lot, which was the end of the movie. If Finn had made his choice, he could have ran that ship in and saved everybody. But no, because Rose decided that he shouldn't be allowed to have his choice because she's the woman and she knows better.
She knows better than Finn.
She's going to smash into his ship to save him.
And potentially kill everybody.
A bunch of other people get killed because it was his choice. She did not respect his choice because as a woman, she knows better. Now, doesn't that harken to the whole idea that women are getting mad, which I'm one of them, because we aren't given choices because men are taking our choices away, which does happen sometimes. And
I've got your buttons right here. You have no choice.
I'm just saying, how come she's allowed to take his choice and we're supposed to respect that, but women are mad when our choice is taken away? And because no one should have their choice taken away.
Nobody should have. And thank you so much, Seamus. Love your content. Catching you live. Here's some dashes. Thanks. Thank you very much. You did not have to do that. We're just going live because Geeky's better when she's live.
I'm just
I can't edit out the rants when she's live.
I'm a woman, and I'm going to be told internalized misogyny or whatever. No, I just call it bullshit. And you have these characters that you had built up as these great male characters, and Rey was lacking before this.
Rey was the most boring character in The Force Awakens, but I thought they would flesh out her character in the
that's what we thought. We thought they'd do more with her, and then she just got more annoying.
She was more annoying.
And then they turned around and then they took male characters because you cannot have strong female. I don't understand. You can have strong male characters. You can have strong female characters. People do it all the time, and they do it with success. But for some reason, the people working on this film think, and working on other projects think that the only way a female can be strong is if you're belittling a male. You can only be a strong female if you make sure the male characters are smashed down to their place. And I have a problem with that. And it's not about me being a woman. It's about, as a writer, you don't do that. It's just, I have a son. I don't want to see him belittled just so another woman can look like she's bigger than she is. You know what I'm saying? It's bull.
Yeah,
I have a daughter and a son.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry.
Oh no! What? I don't even know what's going on with the Grey Jedi. I have no idea. They're doing the Grey Jedi. That was.
I have no idea.
I don't know.
I don't watch.
I don't know.
It's been irritating me so much. I try to stay away from it for blood pressure purposes.
Yeah.
Anyway, go ahead. To this.
Well, no, I'll tell you. Other than this, I have pretty much Resistance because again being tied into animation, I have lost virtually all interest in Star Wars. Like, I could give two shits about Star Wars at this point.
That's something else I was going to say.
At least the movies. The theme park I'm looking forward
You
to.
cannot blame... Okay, this whole article goes on basically blaming this one group of people who are not liking it, and turning out that it's less than you think who hate it. Actually, it's a very small group of people who hate it, which isn't true, because you're studying one social media platform that a lot of people avoid. You're not taking a poll and studying people from all different walks of life. You're studying one. And if this was the case, it was a small group, why did Solo tank so bad? It's not because people can... Oh, there goes the Russians again.
Here come the First Order.
Not because people are getting burnt out on it. I mean, some people it is. But I talk to people. We were at conventions. I talked to basic people, and I said about the movies. And many people told me they don't watch them anymore because after The Last Jedi, they're like, I don't care anymore. I don't care.
We had to talk people into going to see Solo. And again, you want to talk about bias. Like, we could have been like, hell no, we're not going to go see the movie. And a lot of people didn't go see the movie. Obviously,
some people hate it, some people like it.
By the box office, Solo underperformed. I mean, this paper does not address if all of these people are Russian bots and they're meddling. Well, then are the Russian bots not buying the toys? The Russian bots aren't going to see Solo? I mean,
if you're truly saying that you're saying that if the fandom split in half. And out of those half, you're saying half that against are only half as many people, that it's actually 3/4 or 4 and a quarter against. Then please explain to me why the toys didn't sell. Please explain to me why the tickets dropped off a cliff after the first week. Please explain to me why Solo did so bad. You're really reaching on this. Anyway, go back to the paper because that's kind of what the point is.
Well, now I was going to just mention Grey Jedi. I sort of think of us as the Grey Jedi of the pop culture situation right now, because we actually are on the left, but we can see a lot of points that a lot of the haters and the Russian bots have. We can actually agree with a lot of those points because we see those same flaws too. It doesn't mean that we're going to flip flop on our political beliefs.
I'm pro strong female leads. Our book has one. I'm pro that. I'm pro, I'm pro choice. I'm not against anybody based on race, sexual orientation, gender. I'm pro, that's up to you. That's your decision.
Yeah.
I'm not going to, go against you for this. I'm pro all that. What I'm negative of, but I'm not for is bullying. I'm not
from
for
either side.
Right, that's what I'm saying. I'm bullying. I'm not for this whole idea that if I don't agree with you 100% everything, that I'm automatically your enemy and I'm automatically a Nazi or an alt-right person or whatever. I don't agree with you. Somehow we were both libtard snowflakes and alt-right in the same week.
Yeah.
It's just ridiculous.
Yeah, we are. Yeah, we're called, depending on who you talk to, we're either much too liberal or we're much too conservative. So we probably get more. I think we actually get more actual hate from people who are firmly in one camp or the other. And I just, I've always believed that the actual truth is usually a little bit of both. You get two sides of the story.
We get more hate from the left than from the right, and we actually lean left.
Because they think we're traitors, I think.
But
it's part of it.
But that goes back to my whole thing, where if you don't 100% agree on every stance, you are clearly the enemy, and that's so myopic and narrow-minded and ridiculous.
Yeah,
funny.
It's stupid.
But anyway, back to the point, which is this article.
We're just Russian bots. We don't actually exist, guys.
Yeah, we've said that many times. Only cis do and absolute.
Yeah,
exactly.
And that's it. And there's some truth. Some truthiness. Okay,
so let's go. We go down past this. We talked about this.
Newt Gingrich and George Bush.
So anyway, we can go past a lot of this stuff. Let me see. Let me run this.
Okay, go. You run this.
Because I've read this.
Geeky's got the mouse. Now she's got the buttons.
Okay, so in this paper, I analyzed tweets sent to the director of The Last Jedi over the first 7 months after its release. Okay, so supposedly, wait, he's saying he analyzed tweets sent to the director after the release over 7 months' time, which the numbers don't add up. There are more tweets sent to this person in 7 months' time than the number he gives. I'm calling bullshit on this right now. In the collected data, I have discovered political agitation for right-wing values using The Last Jedi as a placeholder for left-wing positions. Right there, you're already saying, I have discovered that it's all people that are right-wing that hate it.
Oh, they're saying nice things about us. Thank you, everybody, for saying nice things about it. You people love us. Nobody else does.
I'm mad about this. Look at this clear bias. I have discovered political agitation for right-wing values using The Last Jedi as a placeholder for left-wing positions.
You need to do it in a more evil voice.
So only
in the collected data, I have discovered political agitation for right-wing values using The Last Jedi as a placeholder for left-wing positions.
Yeah, bullshit. Furthermore, it appears that political activists have used bots and sock puppet accounts to troll left-wing fans. I'm going to tell you for 100. I'm going to tell you for 100%.
That's an awful lot of work.
For 100% certainty that there are sock puppet accounts on the left as well, because I have gone and found them.
Yes.
And I have dug and found several of these because they were harassing Neon a couple times.
Yes.
And it was really easy. It took like 2 minutes to prove they were sock puppet accounts.
So
bullshit. That's only left. It's only one side. Lefts are completely innocent, and it's only sock puppets on the right.
I've been jumped by the
bullshit.
The moral police.
There's sock
on
puppet accounts on both sides for sure.
Multiple occasions.
Okay, so then they go up here saying about, it appears that the political activists have used bots and sock puppet accounts to troll left-wing fans and right fans, because I've seen it. And there is even evidence, let me rephrase that. There are left-wing sock puppet accounts that troll moderate-leaning left fans because they've done it to us.
Yes.
And there is even evidence that Russian influence operators have inserted themselves into the debate, blah, 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 bullshit. Okay, so there's fandom studies. Fandom studies and studies of fan interaction online are now in their 3rd decade. Here's a bunch of history on fandom studies with not dealing with Star Wars. But
I like how they call it, different from fantagonists, which are, okay.
So then they're going about the Gamergate controversy, of course.
Of course, everything. Oh my God, if I hear freaking everything, anytime any fans of any franchise or anything are upset about the direction of the franchise that they're a fan of, all of a sudden it's Gamergate's fault. It's always
Everything.
Gamergate. Everything.
No,
Sports,
no.
it'll be Gamergate.
Everything is white male fault.
Okay.
You know this. Gamergate.
That is
everything
Gamergate. Because
is
everybody...
misogyny. It's always misogyny and transphobia and racism and homophobia. It's always those things.
Because there's a paper out there that one person did that definitively proved that every person involved in Gamergate was a straight white male with anger issues that lives in the basement. Can't get a date. Yeah.
And this person, and I'll go to it eventually, he even admits that you can't, with all 100% certainty, make these comments. I'll show you those in a minute.
This is crazy.
So here's the method.
This is crazy.
Here's the method. So to ensure the data set was not restricted by adherence to certain hashtags or so large that it would exceed my computational resources to analyze it. You just said you had 7 months of tweets. So you were saying in this large set of 7 months of tweets, okay, I chose to study tweets addressing the Last Jedi director Rian Johnson directly. So in 7 months of tweets, there was only 1,273 tweets addressing Rian Johnson directly. I find that hard to believe.
Put an extra 2 zeros on the end of that. Bud,
according to this, it was over several months, and then he says there's 1,273 tweets that directly was at him.
Okay,
bullshit.
English is a geeky second language, so I'll actually read it the correct way. Using Twitter's advanced search functionality, I handpicked.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
You see that spelled differently. I handpicked 1,273 tweets tweeted directly at the director's Twitter handle
between December 13th, 2017 and July 20th, 2018. Supposedly, there's only 1,273 tweets directed at him during this time frame.
Only.
So
per day, per hour.
The Last Jedi opened in Europe in December. Okay, well, anyway, it goes about why I picked that. So supposedly he collected these tweets between this time frame, and there was only that many tweets. Yeah, exactly. Oh wait, no, they clarified that only 1,273. Okay, so then after this, they decided. So no mass collection of tweets has been performed since the only tweets engaging with Rian Johnson have been collected. Well, I guarantee there's more tweets than that. The only information stated publicly on the study Twitter accounts has been collected. So I guarantee there's more than almost 1,300 tweets publicly. So the collected data has been stored and put on computing devices. Okay, sentiment analysis and coding. So what they did was basically he basically went through and a series of several tweets expressing the same sentiment from the same account, he reduced to one. So if someone retweeted Rian Johnson like 10 times saying pretty much the same thing, you only got counted once. And from that, supposedly over the course of 7 months, there was only 967 tweets at Rian Johnson in seven months.
There were only 900.
Only 967 hand-picked tweets in that time.
Hand-picked tweets.
Okay, then I performed a manual sentiment coding of the tweets. He basically says that these analyses tend to have a higher accuracy than many of the current automated systems. So basically, I went and handpicked which programs I used too that were going to give me the things I wanted.
Right.
So then you can see below, he used the nuances of language for deciding which was positive and negative.
This is so ridiculous.
Here's an example of a negative tweet. Rian Johnson, your movie is the worst. I hate you for ruining Star Wars. Hashtag Kathleen Kennedy. Hashtag Rian Johnson. Hashtag Last Jedi. Hashtag Star. Okay, blah, blah, blah. I thought you said you took hashtags out.
I don't know.
Other negative tweets included phrases such as, you ruined Star Wars.
Well,
you already said that,
Well, how many other ways can you say you ruined Star Wars? I mean,
he says, they use the words, calling the film a travesty, dumb, terrible, perennially bad, abhorrent, and awful, which I don't disagree with these things. Other users said that Rian Johnson had committed a war crime and should be in jail. Okay, that's a little bit.
What? Okay, that's... It's just a movie.
That's nuts.
I'd say it's just a movie, but we've got a guy writing a paper on it.
A doctoral thesis on this.
A
doctoral paper.
On freaking Star Wars.
So only 4 tweets out of 967 were more gradual in their negative sentiment, with one user admitting to being in the camp that did not enjoy it, though I did appreciate the cinematography. Another one's okay because he called him a great filmmaker.
Okay.
But he couldn't agree with his take on Luke more. So those people were okay because they still said he was great and kissed his ass. On the positive side, tweets were similarly unequivocal. Example positive tweet is, Rian Johnson, The Last Jedi is a true piece of art. The symbolism and the chemistry between Rey and Kylo was just amazing. Thank you for such a great film. And that tweet, I guarantee you, was bought and paid for. Just by the wording and who says this?
Let me just jump in here, and people do say this, and again, I'm reiterating, I'm not saying that all positivity regarding The Last Jedi or any other movie is bought and paid for by a studio.
No more than all the negativity is.
Right. But having worked in that industry myself, I will tell you there are social media influencers, and they are actually called social
media
influencers. They are basically
paid or compensated in some way.
Compensated. Now that's why YouTube has had, they're making sure that when people review products now, they have to disclose, because a lot of these toy channels popped up. They were basically doing advertising for the toy companies. And they weren't, a non-objective
right.
review.
You have to disclose that you're giving these things, so you kind of, even if you say it's your opinions, you might have a bias.
Right.
So then they have these. Okay, these positive ones were great, beautiful, fantastic, and wonderful. There was a number of tweets that can be seen as value neutral, and they engage in discourse. Example with this would be having binged Jean-Claude Van Johnson this weekend. I keep wondering if you've seen it. What you thought? Okay, who cares? So it seems reasonable to assume that those who actually chose to engage with Rian Johnson directly on Twitter in the 7 months after Last Jedi, all under 1,000 of you, because according to them it's under 1,000, without expressing negative sentiments toward the film, are unlikely to harbor negative sentiments. So if you're nice to him and ask him other things, you clearly love the film, or you wouldn't be negatively thinking about it, or you wouldn't talk to him. Because you can't have a conversation without being in Star Wars, because clearly, every conversation has to have Star Wars included.
Oh, God.
Okay, so now one tweet per account. It's now possible to turn towards the analysis of accounts of those users who have been tweeted. So basically, after he made it one tweet per account, he decided to analyze the user's account, okay?
Right.
So he performed this to ascertain whether the users behind the negativity tweeting accounts were simply sufficiently dissatisfied with the film that they felt the need to express this directly to the director, or whether some or how many had different politically motivated agenda.
Okay, I will tell you. Okay,
if you voted Trump, you're politically motivated. That you must hate.
Driving their negativity. Okay, I'm going to tell you what I think happened.
Didn't vote Trump, still hated it.
Yeah. Did vote Trump, still hate it. I'll tell you what I think happened. What I think happened was YouTube. He's leaving out.
Right. He doesn't count that.
No, YouTube is a better sampling of the general public than Twitter. Twitter is an echo chamber. What's going on is, I think, a lot of people who are unhappy with the film were watching YouTubers. They're part of YouTube communities. And they're like, yeah, let's join Twitter and tell Rian Johnson what I think. I don't think it was politically motivated. I think they were just disgusted Star Wars fans who maybe had never been on Twitter before.
And you can't compare it to the past, because like I said before, you couldn't do this in the past. You couldn't go directly when, Return of the Jedi came out and say to George Lucas, hey, I hated this.
Yeah.
You can write letters, but that's it. Now you can actually go talk to these people, are putting themselves out in the public eye, letting their accounts out there because they want to be able to say what they want to say, but they can't. That in turn means that people can say what they want to say back to them.
Okay, so now he's going to break down all of these awful people.
There's three categories, coding them. Okay, so for the analysis, I divided the negatively tweeting accounts were divided. Now, most houses always on the focus on the negative accounts. Into three categories, coding them as political agenda, troll sock puppet bots, and real fantagonists. Okay, so he basically visited each person's account of his negative commenters. Now, notice he's not saying he visited all the positive commenters' accounts to verify them. He visited all the negative accounts and then made sure that he decided by these factors. Political agenda. These accounts are not solely Star Wars related, but likely belong to real human beings rather than bots or sock puppeteers. Several frequent tweets have been sent that have been characterized as overly political. I hate to break it to you, sweet cheeks, but that works on both sides.
Yeah.
The tweets on these accounts would typically only occasionally or even rarely be about Star Wars, but also consisted of comments on current affairs and political matters, as do both sides. The later being one of the indicators of the owner of the account not using the account as a sock puppet exclusively for trolling. They often include selfies, family photos. Okay, and that is a way I determine too. If you have a lot more personal things in the account, it's more likely legitimate.
Yeah, but I mean, it is possible people did join just to voice an opinion.
Yeah.
Because that's the easiest way to get a hold of most celebrities these days is on Twitter. Even if they don't reciprocate, even if they don't, is just jump on Twitter and tweet at them.
But, of course, he's only analyzing the negative accounts. I don't see a thing here saying, well, I went to the positive accounts and did the exact same thing. He's not saying this, okay? Troll sock puppet bot. Several of these accounts can be identified as fully or semi-automated bot accounts specifically used for trolling, the later often involving accounts with false identity, sock puppets. But I've seen them accuse lots of people of sock puppets for real accounts, but I've seen accounts that are sock puppets on the left as well as the right. Fantagonists, accounts most likely to belong to human beings, claiming them were disappointed by Last Jedi for reasons unpolitical, which is me.
I'm a fantagonist.
I guess I'm a fantagonist too. He identified the sock puppet trolls and bots with using software, which he names what they are. He used Botometer and this other one, the Center of Complex Networks and whatever. They developed this program he used. Sock puppets are fake accounts where the user profile represents a user other than the actual person controlling it. I think we all know what sock puppet accounts are. A troll is a human actor that teases people and makes them angry. Well, you know what?
They're still a real person,
There's
though.
trolls on both sides.
Oh my God.
Or somebody who offends people. Again, that's on
Somebody
both
who
sides.
offends people.
Or
That's
somebody
every
who wants
human
to
on the
dominate
planet.
any single discussion. That's both sides. Or somebody who tries to manipulate people's opinions, sometimes for money. Social media influencers are on both sides.
God.
Most often, trolls use sock puppet accounts or fake identities to avoid repercussions. Some are willing to be identified. So anyway, he goes through this set of these troll characteristics, okay? Then he has Russian trolls. In addition to the characteristics mentioned above, certain parameters indicate that a troll may be part of a Russian or influence campaign. Some parameters, some things might indicate that maybe possibly.
Possibly, maybe.
It's possibly part of a Russian thing. Now, it goes down here. He does say at one point, he goes over all this stuff about troll activity. He goes about when it peak troll, Russian troll activity at the baseline between 7 a.m. and 10 p.m. So, okay. And between noon and 5. So all the time it did this. Hold on. And if Twitter accounts were categories after how many of these criteria were met, they would be considered troll, sock puppet, or Russian trolls. Then here. This is where it's important.
Okay.
It is important to mention here that it is widely considered almost impossible to attribute any sort of cyber attack or strategic operation in the online sphere to an actor with absolute certainty.
Due to the
it is considered almost impossible to attribute any cyber attack or strategic operation to an actor or group with absolute certainty. With that being said, why are you making this claim?
Well, okay, so
Russian bots.
Yeah, now here he's got his findings, his negative to positive neutral fan ratio.
Of course, he didn't delve into the information. Where's the information? Okay, first, before you say this, he has all this broken down for the negative. Where is it all broken down that he proved all the positive accounts? Right. Where is my findings on the other side to prove what you're saying? Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm just saying of the 900. Okay, now I'm getting this again is coming from my editorial background, my marketing background. Among the 967 tweets analyzed, 206 expressed a negative sentiment toward the film and its director, which is 21%, or a little more than 1 in 5 fans thought the film was negative. This data is scrubbed. Okay, this is the term we use in marketing. When you scrub the data, you massage the data to support your opinion. Okay, you scrub the data. This would-be professor is scrubbing the data to support his hypothesis.
Well, first of all, you have to believe that in 7 months there was only under 1,000 real tweets at Rian Johnson about Star Wars in 7 months
per day, maybe.
And yes, and of those, only 206 of the comments towards him expressed negativity towards the film, which we know is not true.
No,
we saw the comments, and most of them were not pleasant. Okay, anyway, go ahead. The number, you go ahead.
I love this, Scam1138. Hey, the data I chose perfectly matches the conclusion I also chose.
Exactly.
Magic.
That's exactly.
Yeah, this is, marketing people do this all the time. Marketing firms do this all the time. Advertising agencies do it all the time. They basically scrub the numbers and present the data in the best possible light to support their clients, giving them more money. That's how it works.
So what they've told you is true from a certain point of view. Anyway,
sorry,
I had to do it.
Oh my God! Yeah,
I had to do it.
From what Morton told you was true from a certain point of view.
This number includes all negative tweets analyzed. Also, those who came from the 44 accounts identified as bots. So, the 967 accounts, 44 were identified as bots, sock puppets, and trolls. So, the 44 accounts, of those 44 accounts, these accounts are the ones that are sock puppets, bots, and trolls. So the Russian bots were a small percentage of 44 accounts. But he lumps them all together, right? Yeah. So the Russians are interfering, and the bots are counted as one part of 3 possible accounts for 44 accounts. This also includes 61 users who show clear political agendas. Because, if you have if you take a political side, you cannot have an opinion on a movie that has nothing to do with politics. Because you're clearly Republican, so if you don't like Star Wars, that's obviously why you don't like it, and your opinion doesn't matter.
Doesn't he get into the alt-right here, and he basically conflates any conservative with alt-right?
He is making something like that. So so then the 61 users, so 44 users, out of about 1,000 users, 44. 44. That's like 4% are bots, sock puppet accounts, or trolls, And we already know that Russian bots make up one of those three. So a percentage, a fraction of the 44 were the Russian bots that they're basing this whole article on. So, and those who have clear political agendas, 6%, they vote Republican. So clearly they're motivated by negativity because they're Republicans.
Because they're Republican, because he's already made that assumption. Because if you look at Morton Bay, PhD's Twitter, he is very, very anti-Republican and very, very pro-Star Wars. And those two things come together and they make up this wonderful cocktail that is this
so overall
ridiculous paper.
50.9% of those tweeting negatively were likely politically motivated or not even human. Wait, no, that's not what that means. Okay, so of 206 accounts that are negative...
Oh, God, this is like the SATs.
44.61. So you're saying half of them are bots or political... But being that you're a Republican does not mean your opinion on a movie is null and void.
This is the SATs. Ryan has 967 negative tweets. Of those tweets, 204 are... Okay, never mind.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
pretty much. So basically, this is... I identified 33 of the 206 negative accounts as troll sock puppets. Okay, so that leaves 11 that are bots. So if there's 33 that you identified as trolls or sock puppets, that means only 11 could be bots. What's wrong?
Oh, no. Oh, I thought actually Morton Bay did invite Rian Johnson out on a date.
He did. They said no joke.
Oh, my God.
So, okay. So 11 of these accounts you can attribute to a bot. Okay.
11 out of the
44 out of the 1,000.
Out of the
11.
hand-picked scrubbed data.
Okay. So all these social and Trump accounts were created or became active after being dormant for months or years. You mean like the ones that just activated themselves in June, July, August, September of 2018 that are going around trolling people they consider right-leaning people on Twitter that keep harassing us, even though we're not right, we're left, but they are too stupid to know.
They're concerned for our souls, Geeky. I've already had.
But most of them don't believe in souls because most of them are saying that they're atheists.
But anyway. I'm saying they're concerned for our souls because I've actually had people concern troll me and tell me that it gives off the appearance that you're supporting people we don't like, and that might not be a good thing for your career.
Well, I don't really give a shit about. Like, we don't do comics anymore. Yeah. Well, we do, but our own stuff. 16 to 33 troll sock puppet accounts appear to be Russian trolls. Oh wait, so 11 were bots, but that doesn't count because half of those sock puppet accounts were Russian trolls. Appear to be because above we can't directly 100% with any certainty say this is true because everybody knows you can't confirm this in any way, shape, or form.
No, this is. But
I'm confirming it even though I can't confirm it. So anyway, he goes about what determines that, and then he goes. I'm just going to scroll because this gets really old after all. So 6 of 16 accounts have a extremely high retweet rate. Wait. 6 of the 16 accounts. So if you retweet a lot, you're a Russian bot or a sock puppet. I hope you like that hand up your butt.
Have been through the resets. They're highly characteristic of a Russian troll account in which but again, they can't definitively say they're Russian trolls.
Exactly. Highly characteristic of a Russian troll account that we cannot definitively say is a Russian thing because there's nothing that can quantify this.
Just imagine if, well, no, I wouldn't even put him in charge of anything medical. I was going to say, just imagine if Morton Bay actually focused his attention on like medical papers or like finding a cure for cancer. I'm like, oh God, no, because more people would die.
An example of an account that almost sums up these Russian troll characteristics carries an auto-generated handle that is almost exclusively tweeted disparagingly about The Last Jedi and engaged in anti-SJW rhetoric and mention Trump. So if you're somebody who likes Trump, who's tired of SJWism and hates The Last Jedi, you are clearly a Russian troll account because those things are indicative of Russian troll accounts that we can't prove in any way, shape, or form, and there's no way to quantify this. So anyway,
oh my God, I can't even. No, what's this? From April 2018 onwards, during the lead up to the release of The Last Jedi for home video market, in anticipation of Solo, a Star Wars story opening, the account suddenly comes to life and begins tweeting frequently about The Last Jedi.
Maybe someone doesn't use their Twitter for a while. I'll go weeks and not use it.
I'm telling you, what's going on is there are people who are on Twitter. Now, I'm not saying that there are no, there's no agenda, whatever. I can't definitively say that.
I'm sure there are bot accounts and troll accounts, but it's on the left as well as the right. I've seen them both.
What I'm saying is it's very, very plausible that there are people who are only on Twitter to voice complaints about the Star Wars franchise, that most of these people are on Facebook or YouTube or someplace else. Email. They're not actually on Twitter. Twitter seems to think it is the center of the social media universe when, again, statistically, it's very, very small, and it's a very, people like Morton Bay, PhD, are right at home on Twitter.
It gets better.
Oh, okay.
One of the above-mentioned accounts, which has now been deleted by Twitter. So one account was deleted because it exhibited...
One of the 1,200...
so clearly that one account was clearly a fake account. So one account you can confirm was fake. One. Okay, so anyway... No, okay. Oh, then this is where I love this. Okay.
Oh, because no, they misspelled Mark Hamill, so it's a Russian bot because they misspelled.
Yes, they didn't spell Luke right either. Because I have done J instead of K because they're right next to each other on the effing keyboard. Anyway.
Oh my God, this is so.
Some people just type
stupid.
real fast and hit send, and you cannot edit Twitter. You cannot edit your tweets, which is a pain.
How much time did Morton Bay, PhD, spend on this ridiculous
January till June or whatever?
Paper.
7 months or 8 months.
What good things for American society could he be doing?
Okay. And then, now this is where I find bullshit. No similar accounts were found. Okay, this is on the fake accounts with misspellings. On the positive neutral side, or most accounts signal that they belong to an identifiable human being. Show me this. You broke down the negative accounts into all these categories, ran all these diagnostics, spent paragraphs of redundant discussion on how these are fake, and then your verification for the positive neutral accounts were most accounts signal that most, not all, signal they belong to identifiable human beings and had a high likelihood of being real. Most, not all. And you don't go into pages of blah blah blah.
Yeah,
blah,
because
blah,
if he had to hold the positive tweets up to the same standards, you actually would find a lot of the same behavior, and you might even find some paid media influencers.
There were also
that's a whole nother issue.
There were also no bots found among the accounts posting positive or neutral tweets.
Oh my God.
No bots found. I call bullshit on that. I would love to see somebody else who has the access to these analytics, knows how to do this, to go run a study on the exact same tweets from January. Haven't been deleted. So the exact same parameter time, and run the exact same diagnostics on all of them, positive or negative.
Right. The only way that this would hold any water for me is if you got somebody involved, or some buddies, multiple people involved, so there are actually checks and balances, and this person has no love or hatred of Star Wars. Let's get somebody in here who is just a numbers person, okay, with no real political agenda and no feelings one way or the other for the Star Wars franchise. And let's see what they uncover, because he is biased. He is absolutely
somebody
biased.
Who's neutral. Yeah, here.
His entire Twitter.
As someone who has done research and psychology papers for APA format for the last 6 years, this is not a study. It's not bad. Exactly. Yeah. I've had to do the same things.
Thank you.
I've had to do research papers. This is not a research paper.
No.
This is ridiculous. I have no words. Political agenda. 61 counts can be characterized as having a political agenda. Okay, you're apparently not allowed to vote Republican.
Okay. Here, this is where I get pissed off. This is my anger
Republicans.
Button. Okay, 61 counts could be characterized as having a political agenda. Morton Bay, PhD. Let's go to your fucking Twitter and look at your fucking political agenda, because that's all your Twitter is filled with, is anti-right, look at this. Kavanaugh.
Anti-right.
Yeah, look at this. All Star Wars, all politics, all the fucking time. You want to talk about, what General Leia would say to Judge Kavanaugh.
Well, she probably would, actually.
Performance received well by conservatives is actually a major political problem for Republicans. Not enough to get 50 votes for the nomination, blah, 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 blah. If you go to his photos and videos, it is almost all politics, left-wing politics in Star Wars.
So this paper should, by his own criteria,
a sham. Dismissed. This should be dismissed. Your paper,
by his own criteria,
by your own, throw this out, because you have, if this were a freaking trial, you'd be shown the door. You would not be allowed to be on the jury because you're biased toward your love of Star Wars, and you're biased toward your left-leaning politics. This is bullshit. Let's get somebody in there who actually has no no skin in the game, no dog in the race, whatever the hell you want to use, because you are biased.
Right. So they're basically saying 61 of these accounts can be characterized as having political agenda. Unlike the the accounts or bots, these accounts are mostly characterized by the same human identifiability. You can identify them as people, but they're politically agenda. So apparently, if you have a political agenda,
your thesis is bad, and you should feel bad.
If you have a political agenda, be it left or right, you should be discounted in this. So again, we see all these accounts broken down by numbers on the people that are on the negative side. Where is the percentage of people on the positive comment side, which he's claiming are more than the negative?
Yeah.
Where's the breakdown of how many people have a political agenda? I want to know the numbers for that. You're not giving me that to compare it to, because you might find that there's 3 times as many people with a political agenda on the opposite side.
Yeah.
We don't know, because you're not giving all the information. You're
Right.
just giving the cherry-picked information, the scrub data. So, the majority of these accounts will in the category would...
Oh, the scrubbed data. I thought you said this scrubs data.
Well, it kind of does.
Okay.
A majority of the accounts in this category would tweet frequently and positively about party-based politics. Where's his account again?
Right here.
Just saying. Where's the other one right here? Okay, so says the person who does the exact same thing. President Trump's administration retreats supporters of the president's own tweet. So basically, if you support Trump, you know what? Here's the funny thing. Here's the funny thing.
Your Twitter is.
Here's the funny thing. First of all, I'm not a guy. I'm a female, and I didn't vote for Trump. I hate Last Jedi. Explain.
His feed is all far left politics, anti-Republican politics, and Star Wars. You're a hypocrite. You're a hypocrite. And again, I'm not a Republican.
No. Yes, exactly.
Yeah, this is all your feed
to
is. It's just,
we'll have to go to the results. Because this is going really long.
Yeah,
I knew it would, because it's a lot to cover. That's why I said it's going to take a while. Okay, so anyway, it goes on about that. Talking about focus on politics. So the less focus on politics or party or specific issues, and the more on identity politics, posting anti-feminist, anti-homosexual messages, and tweets of racist nature were also frequent among the accounts in this category. I'm sure if you look at the positive comments, you're going to find a lot of people focusing on misogyny, and how all these men who hate it are misogynists, incels who live in their mom's basement, live in a cave. I've heard that one. Are clearly, Trump supporters and everything else. So it works on both ways. He's only looking at one side, which is absolute bullshit. And this is, like I said, again, the only reason I'm mentioning this is because if they are to argue, well, you're conservative. No, we are actually moderate, and we lean left on most everything. So it's just hilarious about this.
I mean, I try not to get too political on Twitter. I talk about entertainment, but unfortunately, entertainment has become politicized.
Right, but that's what the whole thing is.
And that's what the whole thing is. But I do have a problem with the extreme leftists policing everybody else and telling them what they should like, what they should think, what they should say.
What
that's
makes me
a problem
angry
for me.
is
as a liberal, that's a problem.
What makes
for me.
me angry as a woman is that I'm constantly being told that unless I agree with what they say, my voice doesn't matter. Like, it's all men who hate She-Ra. It's all men who hate The Last Jedi. Oh, I'm sorry, white men. It's all white men who hate The Last Jedi. It's all white men who hate She-Ra. And that is not the case. So people like me, who is a female, or somebody who might be of a different ethnicity, or it might be trans, or whatever, if they hate it, they're completely marginalized. So you're already marginalized to begin with, and you're marginalized by the people shouting about marginalizing people.
Yeah.
It's like a double slap. It's even worse. So he goes on about the racist nature. He goes on about that most of the accounts were against antagonistically about SJWs. Where's the positive accounts? They are antagonizing people as well.
Yeah.
I've seen them make comments, like I said, live in the basement, your mom's basement, live in a cave, incels. Where is the data on that information? It is not given to you. Okay. So, anyway, he goes on and on about these tweets. He mentions these tweets. He mentions discussion. I'm just going to go to
Oh, wait, no, he talked about the alt-right up here, because everything
really?
comes back. Yeah. Based on the finding in the present study, it is not fair to generalize and paint all of the Last Jedi detractors as alt-right activists, racists,
but
or
I just
misogynists.
did.
However, the findings above show that a majority of the negatively poised users included in the study do express such sentiments either in the Last Jedi related tweets or in other tweets on their accounts. These identity-based political values combine with traditional party politics and issue-based politics to represent a politicization of Star Wars critique, a politicization of Star Wars. We don't mix We don't mix Star Wars and politics. Where's that Leia? Oh, there we go. We never, ever mix Star Wars and politics because that's bad. Morton Bay, PhD. What would General Leia say to Judge Kavanaugh? Bink. Just saying.
Okay, but she's just the actress, not actually Leia herself. Anyway,
know,
but I'm just saying back to what you're saying here. They even said, where's that? Based on the findings, President, it's not fair. It's not fair to generalize and paint all the people in this light. You say that. It's not fair out of one side of your mouth. But then turn around and say, it's not fair to say that. But they almost all are. And again, you're looking at Twitter. You're cherry picking your data.
Yeah, right.
You're looking at one social media account, which is known for being a dumpster fire. You're cherry picking your data, and you're going on about how it's not fair to say they're all misogynist, racist, homophobes, but they are. That's basically what you just said.
Yeah, it's like I'm not saying they're all alt-right, but they are.
So
Do you even know Morton Bay, PhD, what the alt-right actually is? I don't think you have any.
I don't think anybody really knows what.
I don't think anybody knows. Basically, the alt-right is whatever is slightly right of far left, I believe, because I've been called alt-right.
Wait. With respect to the what's this one here? Say cognitive and manipulation tactic. With respect to those individuals who express right-wing political views on their Twitter accounts and who dislike The Last Jedi, I argue that the findings show indications of classic cognitive dissonance
leading to attitude change.
Close similarity to being a fan or supporter of a political figure and participating in pop culture fandom. Basically saying that these people think that they own it, kind of thing. Is that basically what saying? It's like he does.
Like he does.
Yeah, I don't like
because he's got to defend the honor.
Their ownership counts.
Oh my God! All of this, just a couple of tweaks. You could apply it to Morton Bay, PhD, who's using his position and platform to take his love of Star Wars and his love of left-wing politics.
Here comes the Russian. They're trying to.
They're coming. They're going to shut this live stream down.
They're coming.
Oh my God.
Okay, the instance of the cognitive dissidence further raised the likelihood of Russian influence operators being present because of blah blah factors that maybe possibly, but you admitted earlier that maybe possibly it's not, you cannot quantify with certainty happened. I'm gonna go down to the end because this is all just this talks in circles. Honestly, talks about the infection natures of trolling, about how people are gonna be more likely to troll because others see other people trolling. Again, that's on both sides, honey. It's on both sides. And you go down to the bottom about catalysts of trolling behavior. So you just get past all this trolling bullshit. And here's the conclusion. This whole article, 28 pages of bullshit to get to the conclusion. 28 pages of one-sided BS. There's no breakdown of the positive tweets, only the negative, which to me says you did not study the positive tweets. If you did, you should have at least given that data to further prove your point. You can't just make a claim of this without proving that the other side is what you're saying. You didn't prove anything about the other side.
You didn't prove anything.
So assuming the collected, I love this. This is my favorite part. Assuming that the collected data set of Twitter interactions with The Last Jedi director Rian Johnson is at least to an extent representative of the Star Wars fandom on Twitter. The Star Wars fandom on Twitter, not the Star Wars fandom as a whole. 5% the Star Wars fandom on Twitter.
Media. Yeah, very small.
And what you find on Twitter is either you've been run off if you're a right-leaning person, or you're going to be much more combative because you're constantly harassed. And this is somebody who's a leftist saying this.
Yeah,
there are a number of statements that can be made on the bias of the collected data. So, assuming it's representative.
Assuming. We're going to jump in here real quick. People are talking about, a number of entertainment sites have picked up this
that's fact.
This study by one individual who is just a Star Wars nerd, who's also a left-wing political nerd, putting this paper out, and they picked it up as some group study, some government study.
I could write the same paper the refuting this on the opposite side.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
My mom, like I always said, I'm saying it again. I can say I went to the moon. It doesn't make it so.
And that's not advocating the moon landing conspiracy before anybody
I'm just saying.
Weird ideas.
Anybody can say anything. You can argue to any point. It doesn't make it fact. You need more substantial evidence. You need collaboration.
Right.
You need collaborating studies. You need actual studies that show actual data, not just a one-sided data.
Yeah, this is so phony. Ray Bankman asks, and I think this is the second time Ray asked, I'm so sorry you got buried.
I'm sorry,
here.
I'm just mad and I'm going.
What if the SJWs are pawns similar to how the Confederacy of Independent Systems was a pawn of Palpatine? I do believe that there are greater powers at play manipulating people who are basically the grunts. The grunts are going out now, and I think that's probably on both sides, but I do believe there are political and corporate forces that manipulate individual.
Oh, we know for a fact.
Yeah, the groups to get them to do what they want. I believe there are some corporate entities that may look like they swing one way politically and actually don't. They just go where they think the money is.
Right.
Or they might even be using extremists to prove a point as to why they should go the other direction. To board members or whatever. I mean, there's a lot of things that go on behind the scenes. Yeah, I believe that, we are pawns.
Yeah, and the media clearly just uses people as pawns. It's constant. Yeah. Okay, first and foremost, the data does not support claims that a majority of fans were so dissatisfied with The Last Jedi they wish to boycott further Star Wars releases under Disney ownership. Wait, it doesn't? Solo. The fact that the ticket sales of Last Jedi just went off a cliff a week later.
First, did they mention Solo? First of all, yeah, data does not support claims. Fans they boycott. Solo was a huge financial disaster. The toys are collecting dust on the shelf.
On both Last Jedi and Solo. And
how
the ticket
is
sales
this
on
happening?
The Last Jedi just fell off a cliff a week later. But the data shows that's not true. Somehow Russia's controlling toy sales and ticket sales. Okay. Whether you consider the 21.9%, including political activists, bots, and trolls and sock puppets, or 10.5%, excluding them, tweets expressing negative attitudes towards The Last Jedi, it's clear that the majority is satisfied. More than satisfied or non-committal in their attitudes. You looked at one place, known for being a dumpster fire, and you looked and first of all, you're claiming there's less than 1,000 tweets of Rian Johnson in several months' time, and almost all of them are positive, which I know for a fact isn't true. You're looking at one place and saying there's nothing here to indicate that people are upset. I can tell you for a fact, I have talked to many, many people, different places, not on Twitter, other places, here, Facebook, friends and people we don't know in person. And a lot of people just said they don't care anymore. They just don't care anymore.
Yeah, it's just apathy, and that's actually
like
the
Last
worst.
Jedi, and they don't care anymore.
But this is.
Oh wait, what's about fans of identifying people? It also showed the majority of the negative fans with clear gender identification identify as male, with only a minuscule fraction of the negative fans identifying as female.
Geeky is all of the females. She's all the women who hated The Last Jedi. This gets me too. Approximately. Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Approximately 1 in 3 negative fans expressed misogynistic, anti-progressive, anti-social justice, or conservative views. When some detractors of The Last Jedi correctly claim that it is an injustice to place these labels on all negative fans, these detractors also have to contend with the fact that labels actually fit a large portion of their faction.
On Twitter.
So when they call people on Twitter
with biased massage data on Twitter, go ahead. Once the culture wars ends with us as the victors, what becomes of us as a whole? Will we emerge a strong group of individuals and some come to the corruption ideals? Or there'll be something else to divide people up and make them mad.
Yeah, but I think I don't know. It just seems like the next generation of kids, they don't seem like they're
they don't seem
as interested in politics as this group of people.
No,
I think they're
just no. I think sometimes I think they are. Cause I'm in the schools, and I think, but apparently it's all men. I mean, again, according to this study that only looked at tweets, and they only looked at the negative tweets and did not have the same breakdown for the positive tweets to prove their validity. This study that is clearly to one side says that it's mostly men. Because women aren't interested in Star Wars anyway. And if they are, since these strong female leads came out, it's all about women and women power, and women are just happy with it.
Jeez.
And if you don't like it, you're an internalized misogynist anyway.
God.
So you're actually a man with boobs, so and a vagina, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah, mangina. The presence of organized influence measures, i.e. bots, sock puppets, and troll accounts, is further indications of attempts to manipulate Star Wars fans as part of a political persuasion tactic by who? What group out there
Trump's
is
cabinet's trying so hard to manipulate Star Wars fans. It's number one. They have meetings about it.
They have meetings about Star Wars at the White House. Absolutely. And this is on Trump's, the top of his agenda is to tank Star Wars. Because he's more of a Star Trek guy, I guess.
I don't know. I mean, it's political. It's a political group that's out there, So
stupid.
It just goes on and on.
So stupid.
However, the assertions made in this article must be considered within the limited scope of the data set. The limited scope in the data set.
The
very
scrubbed,
limited
cherry-picked.
Scope, which may or may not limit general. I can't even read from here. Generalizability
Generalizability of the findings.
Is that a word?
It is now.
Another problem
because an academic made it up.
Here. Another problem for replicability is the fact that Twitter is a dynamic forum, and only tweets from selected accounts are archived outside the platform's own servers, which means the data collected during the study period on this paper may not correspond to later searches. Oh, you little fucker. So basically what you're saying, sorry, I should have said that. Basically what you're saying is, well, you might not get the same findings as me, but it's not because my paper's flawed. It's because the data isn't the same. And it's not going to match up because my data might not match up to your data because Twitter's dynamic doesn't archive them all.
This guy,
no.
This guy is like of these people who are on Twitter 24/7 defending the comic book industry, and a lot of them who aren't even comics professionals. They ain't working comics, but they're sort of like hangers on, and they're on there like 24/7 just trying to turn. Like I saw a thing yesterday with Ricada Law going back, and I was actually tagged in. I was actually tagged into that conversation, and I untagged myself because I'm like, I can't keep up with all of these.
Yeah,
but it was like these random people trying to defend the honor of the comic book industry against the law because the nasty law, and they just kept going on and on and on and on. This went for hours and hours, and finally I tagged myself out because I'm like, I don't really need or want to be involved in this conversation.
It's too, but I love this. The assertions made in this article, assertions made this article must be considered within a limited scope of the data set, which he admits is a limited scope and may or may not be found again with other findings. You can't replicate it. It's probably not going to replicate. If it replicates different, it's not because my study's bullshit. It's because the Twitter is dynamic form of tweets from selected accounts archives. So it might just mean that maybe different tweets were shown to you. And it's not because my study's a piece of garbage. It's because anybody, I think, can go out and refute this within like a couple days. Yet, even considering the limitations of the data set, there are enough indications that pop culture debates on social media are being politicized. Probably.
Yes.
Sometimes for strategic purposes that have nothing to do with the subject under debate. I don't see the point of that, but okay. And as the debate on misinformation, political communication, and regulation of social media continues, researchers studying these matters may find it beneficial to turn their attention to pop culture and how political messaging is propagated in its fandoms. Basically, which one's on the right side of the light, which one's on the side of the dark, according to my side. I'm sorry, I just love that. Oh my God, you can't replicate it. So if you're going to get different findings from me, but you can't replicate this because Twitter changes.
Oh my God, this is so isn't the
that?
Purpose of science that you can prove it through testing and testing by multiple sources, right? Like again,
multiple sources verifying each other before it can be labeled fact.
Right. Like this is not a paper. This is, I agree with whoever said that this was an op-ed piece disguised as a thesis.
You have a very limited scope, but she admits it's a limited scope. Very limited scope, biased to one side information. You're not even giving the information on both sides. You're only giving the breakdown of information on the side of the argument you're making. You're not giving both sides of the argument, both breakdowns, to make it fair comparison. You're comparing what your apples. If you're comparing apples to apples, you give both information. You're comparing apples to oranges because you're not giving us the information from which to draw from to see if we can draw the same conclusions. And then you follow with, but it doesn't matter. Other people might get something different because Twitter is the way Twitter is, and it might be different for somebody else because they might see different tweets than me.
Then why the hell did you bother writing the freaking paper in the first place?
And at the end of the day,
I know why.
You can like it. And you can not like it. That is up to you. Both opinions, they're your opinion. I'll respect it if you don't like it, or you like it. I respect that I don't like it. It doesn't make me less of a fan because I do not like it. It doesn't make me a traitor to women and an internalized misogynist. I don't like characters that are not likable, or that you're destroying male characters just to raise up female ones. Because I think you can have strong female characters and strong male characters without putting down one to raise up the other. That's just shit behavior. You're allowed to have your opinions, but do not do a paper with skewed data. Not even skewed data. You're not even giving the full data.
Yeah.
You're not even getting the full and fair data, and then claim that it is factual.
Well, apparently, Atticus is who is, I believe, in academics. If I'm following your tweets, or if I'm sorry, I've got Twitter on the mind. If I'm following your comments, is in academia and said about peer review, and I guess this was subject to peer review. It got through. How the hell this got through?
I can tell you how the hell it got through.
I don't know.
It's a Southern California university, and most universities lean left. That's just the way it is.
Yeah, but this is like left of left.
But
this
he's
is
making
like
it about
ridiculous.
He's basically, his point is that people hate Last Jedi because of political reasons or Russian trolls who are also interfering in politics. That is what his thesis is. So of course they're going to agree with. Oh wait, it's about how Republicans are jerks. Of course we're going to agree with that.
Yeah, and again,
and I'm not even Republican. I'm just saying from watching this. This is what happens all the time. I see it all the time.
And this hits all of these news outlets, and this is just this is an op-ed piece. It's hit all these. Oh, it's a study. It's like, no, study to me says, oh, this was like a government-funded, vetted, verified
study
thing.
would provide all information, not just one-sided information.
This is so
a study is
stupid.
going to break down both sides by the same criteria, not just one. Not negative comments were broken down by certain criteria and percentages. But you're supposed to take on his word that the positive comments were not bots, and most of them were real accounts. But there's no numbers or research or data on that side. Just he said. Right.
And look, and these headlines, again, this is like a weakness in academia and a weakness in journalism. And the two are just not in a good place right now. Why would these... Okay, at least that has a question mark.
Around here, they lean left, the universities.
Yeah, but why would they make this declarative? Russia meddled with Star Wars: The Last Jedi too.
What?
No, that's inaccurate. A study by one random individual.
And they found that 11 of the 1,000 tweets could have been Russian bots. Possibly, maybe. 11. That does not, to me, out of 1,000, which first of all, that numbers don't seem right, but that does not indicate, a 1% chance does not indicate.
Oh, I see why, because 6 months ago, Rian Johnson said Russian bots launched a coordinated campaign to save General Hux 6 months ago in the Moscow Times.
We need to go soon, just so you know.
This is so dumb. This is just dumb.
So where I'm coming at this from? I'm coming at this from a person who went to college, who has one degree and almost a second degree. I'm not a doctor. I'm not claiming I am, even though I could if I wanted to. And somebody who's written papers, who works in education, who has family who are in the medical field, have family with issues that we have to read medical papers for. This is absurd. This isn't even a paper. This is just a joke.
Okay.
So many things missing.
Atticus, thank you for jumping back in here. I'm working on toward a. Let's see. Okay, they don't actually look at the research. They look at the abstract, then make sure you're using the right format, like APA, MLA, or Chicago. Okay, so this is very much like in journalism, where they look at the formatting of the article. They don't really look at the content. It's sort of like
as long as you hit the right format.
Right, an AP style or whatever the style is. And it also reminds me of, a fifth grader's oral report. As long as you follow the guidelines. And you could be spewing a bunch of nonsense. It's not true, but as long as you've got your note cards and you're following the format, you're probably going to get an A or a B on that report. But then for this to be used, all over the internet shows how erroneous academic information can give way to erroneous articles.
Was smart. They said studies suggest.
They
don't take it as fact. Suggest significant amount. But again, it was if the significant amount is 11 out of almost 1,000. That's laughable. That's not a statistically significant amount. Go ahead.
Michael Roth, thank you. Didn't have to do that, but thank you. Trump is planning to get John Carter relaunched. Oh my God. Yeah, we're gonna reboot John Carter with a woman. We're gonna reboot John Carter with a female lead.
Yeah, it's still called John Carter. So,
according to a new study, this is the correct way to. According to a theory, this is not okay. And it says it's Morton Bay. It doesn't just say this is like UCLA says. Blah 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 blah. I want to see. We know for certain some people don't like the movie, others dislike the movie, and are taking to social media argue. He basically says this is his opinion. This is one of the few. I will give comicbook.com some credit. It's one of the few sites out there that actually says that this is basically a theory by one person based on his findings, and they kind of outline how they came to this conclusion. But again, this is no more valid. I don't think it's any more valid than somebody just commenting randomly on a message board with like a ridiculously long post.
I mean, if you wanted to prove your validity, you could at least present the facts on both sides. You should have analyzed the positive comments and discussed them at depth, the same way as you did with the negative ones. So you're offering both sides of the argument. You're offering all the data, and then from that data, we can ascertain that these things are these things. You're not doing that. And it's right off there, right there, And then you've mentioned many times that, this data cool. You can't redo my right. Well, that's something else. When they do a lot of these testing things, one of the questions they ask is it something that can be replicated?
Yeah.
If it's not something that's replicable, you cannot use it as something that is an actual factual thing, because if you can't replicate it, then it doesn't tell us anything. It has to be replicated and proven again. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, especially in medical research, it can be replicated? If it can't be replicated, then it's not. It's just opinion.
Yeah, and that's what this is an opinion. The only way I would take any of this even remotely seriously is if they had, have that data be parsed by someone with no love of Star Wars and who is politically unbiased or at least open-minded. That's the only way I would even consider.
I want somebody who who doesn't really care one way or the other about Star Wars to do it. I want several people. I want a team of like 10 people to do their own independent research on this, who are not Star Wars,
Washington.
Star Wars fans or detractors.
Our tax dollars at work.
I want that. I want full data shown on both sides. I want it to be a study that is able to be replicated. Yeah. You are flat out saying, well, you might get different results than me because you can't replicate this. Well, if it's not replicable, then it's not valid, because then it's just, it could be a fluke for all we know. It's not statistically significant. First of all, 11 people out of 1,000 is not statistically significant. Two, by your own admission, well, somebody else could do this and they might get different results because you can't replicate
I know.
Well, right there throws it out the window as being valid.
I know.
So I'm just oh my God, I can't believe I just wasted 2 hours of my life having to describe why this is stupid.
Yeah, I
2 hours of my life I can't get back. That's my own fault. That's my own fault.
You wanted to do this when I was just sweet Lord.
God.
I just can't believe, again, as somebody,
I'm so mad.
He was, hey, he looks good. Dave Harbour looks real good. Okay, anyway, it has nothing to do with The Last Jedi, but he looks really good. So, as someone who's worked in media and whatever, just the fact that all of these quote unquote news outlets are picking up this flimsy paper and running with it to support their view that they like The Last Jedi. So here's some really tenuous, flimsy evidence.
And I would include the things like he said, which was, I can't statistically prove this because everybody knows you cannot, confirm this by anything we have. You can't quantify this, but we have, right now that can prove that 100% certainty this happened. And if I had to put a paper like that said that, and then I put a paper and said you can't replicate this because you might get Twitter's ever changing and your data might be different. If I put that out and I put that as a paper, they would be like, that's a joke. How dare you? That's not academic. That's stupid. For the same reasons we're complaining about, because because it confirms what they're saying.
Right. That's what I'm saying. If it's the same thing, but this guy had, all kinds of like Trump support on his page, they would just be like, oh my God, another white man trying to tell people, to hate on The Last Jedi.
Oh, I'd love to see a minority do this, like maybe some kind of extreme minority, like you have like several minorities. You're a person that's maybe you're like a female, and maybe you're a different, you're not white, you're different ethnicity. Heck, even if you're like a different sexual orientation, that'd be fantastic. I would love to see somebody like that go do the same study. Find opposite findings, but not say what they are, not say their gender, not say their status. Put like J.K. Rowling did with her title. I'm not to use her, but just like so that you don't know if it's a male or female who did the study, and put it out there and see what they say. Well, this straight white guy is saying this, and it's like, but you're none of those things. Just because, just make sure that they can't say it's because you're a white male.
Or is this whole thing Lucasfilm just trying to be like, hey, guess what? People stopped giving a shit about Star Wars.
We better get that stirred up.
We better stir it up again, because, Star Wars, because here's the thing, like, people aren't talking about Star Wars. Our Star Wars videos, even the videos we do in Star Wars are not getting nearly the views they got 6 months ago when Solo came out. A lot of the Star Wars channels aren't gaining subscribers like they were when The Last Jedi and Solo came out. Star Wars is losing momentum, so it's almost like they need to keep people talking about it, even if it's negative. or at least keep the discussion going to remind people that Star Wars still exists, that we have an episode 9 coming out, that they have a theme park coming up, that they have a new show coming out in a couple of weeks. Oh, they have a new show coming out in a couple of weeks.
Oh, they do.
So we gotta and they got a lot of unsold toys we gotta move. So let's get people talking about Star Wars again.
Most people like it. So if you're hearing that you shouldn't watch Star Wars anymore because everybody hates it, that's not true. That's not true. There's our article proving it's not true. And I have to laugh because remember we were kids. Like, well, us anyway.
I vaguely remember being a child.
Everything was the Soviet Union's fault.
Oh, here we go.
Remember? It was always the Soviet Union. It was always, if there's something bad happened, it was the Soviet Union. And that's what it is all over again.
Yeah.
So fast forward, many years later, and guess what? It's Russia's fault.
Except this is like McCarthyism all over again, except the communists are the ones who are cracking down on the capitalists. It's crazy. It's just so crazy.
I just think it's funny.
They're taking Star Wars these same people would be like, oh my God, people just chill out. It's like just a movie, but they're doing freaking papers on people why they don't like it and trying to unperson them and make them non-people, make them bots. It's so stupid.
By his own research, I do not like The Last Jedi. I am a female who doesn't like The Last Jedi. I don't like the characters. Your strong female characters I find as more annoying and purposeless than I do that they're strong female leads. I'm also not a Republican, so I would love to know where I fall in this whole discussion. If this is his findings, I never tweeted at Rian Johnson because I don't see a point.
I didn't like
it, but I'm not going to harass somebody.
I very seldom harass celebrities. I mean, I might tweet at a company for this or that, but I very seldom, unless I've been pulled into the conversation, tweet at any kind of celebrity. Even though they're comic book people, I don't tweet at them very often because I figure they're busy. I'm busy. I don't,
That's right. I'm a Russian. I'm not. I don't exist. That's right. I'm a button on your computer.
You're a button on the computer.
I'm several buttons on your computer.
I'm Boris.
I'm really pre-programmed with a lot of stuff.
I'm Boris. You're Natasha.
There you go.
Yeah, there we go. That's we should drop. What was it? What's the one show on TV? I haven't watched it with the Russian spies pretending to be an American
Americans?
couple. The Americans. Yeah,
that's Americans.
Yeah, that's us. We're the Americans.
I got red hair like Natasha, and for sure the Avengers. Does that count?
Yeah.
So anyway, let's wrap this up because we just wasted 2 hours of our life that can't get back.
Yeah, we did.
And I still have to go over our kids' homework.
Yeah. So anyway, Morton Bay, PhD. Just my final thoughts. Big Star Wars fan. Heavily into left-wing politics. It's the perfect storm to create something like this.
But you can't replicate it because, Twitter changes. So if you try to replicate it, you might get different results.
Well, of course you are, because you're not going to have the filter that he has.
The things that they use to look at anything that they use as criteria to determine whether or not a study is valid, he doesn't have. So I'm like, none of it. Data on both sides. Multiple people confirming the data on both sides. The replicability. He doesn't have any of these things. So.
Yeah, but he does like Pink Floyd. I will give you, Morton, if you ever do watch this video, I will give you mad props for being a Pink Floyd fan. You've even got the pig on the wing and the sheep. So that's actually kind of cool. That's the only thing cool on your Twitter profile. Everything else is up for debate.
We got to wrap this up.
All right, we're going to go. This has been Neon and Geeky for Clownfish TV. Please subscribe if you haven't already. We're trying to get to 10,000 subs.
And you might be doing gaming here soon?
I'm hoping to play Mega Man 11 with Squid King today.
Later.
I think it's out today, so I'll go buy it.
Okay.
All right. Later.